was, how do we define and detect morality and immorality? So I often do a question and answer exercise with students where I ask them whether they know what is good and what is bad. And in our teachings, in our Sanatan teachings, we can very easily prove that there is no such thing as good and there is no such thing as bad, because the timeline determines what each of those elements is. So something that is good today can have a detrimental impact tomorrow. And the story that I use again is from one of our Shastras, is the story of a farming family where you have destitute farmers, and one day a horse wanders into their farm, and the young son thinks, this is amazing, we've got a horse, rushes to his mother and father and his elderly grandfather and says, look, a horse is here, we can now dig up that piece of land with all those rocks and we can plant it, and then there will be seeds and bigger crops and so on. This is wonderful. And the grandfather says, well, it might be good, might be bad. Because a few weeks later, the son goes riding on the horse, tumbles over, the horse falls on his leg, and his leg is fractured. So he can't work anymore, and suddenly it's bad. A few weeks later, there is a band of young men marching down the lane, carrying tools and weapons, and they come rushing in saying the neighbouring king has declared war, we're all going to fight, we need your young man. And the father says, well, hold on a minute, he's actually fractured his leg, he can't walk. And so they say, okay, we'll leave him. So all of a sudden it's good. So good and bad is not something which is intrinsically part of the way in which we look at things. Is it dharmic? Is it adharmic? Is a valid way in which you can navigate existence and decision making? One of the things they recognized was that we're in a creation of infinite variables and infinite relationships. And show me the person who can map the scheme which would result in somebody like myself being born in a mud hut in Punjab, literally with a cow and a goat as companions, unlike another illustrious predecessor. And from there, I would have a life of visiting many nations, doing all sorts of things, and ending up here, talking to you. There is no serial, predictable path or decision-making flow which would say, this is possible. And yet it happens. So we abandoned the search for serial, logical planning because we recognized infinite variables, infinite relationships, total unpredictability. We recognize that if you don't have all of the variables and you don't have all of the relationships, a decision which says yes and a decision which says no are equally invalid because you don't know. So we said, right, abandon that mind game, look for the Dharmic principles which lead towards harmony. So be guided by a deeper guidance and use your thinking processes to execute the choices which come from an intuition-based understanding. And that's how we navigate morality and immorality.